Okay, let's move on to the next presentation in that case, which is shooting science.
Again, as we previously discussed, chair selection is vital, and I'm sure Sipa also covered this in one of his sessions. You've got to put the athlete in the correct chair. He's got to be strapped in. He's got to feel comfortable, because if they're not comfortable and they're wobbling around in that chair, anything that they do is not going to work for them. They're going to fall out of that chair. They won't be able to execute any of their drills, any of the shooting skills, or anything of that nature, even pushing the chair. So the player needs to be comfortable and he needs to be balanced. That's very, very important. We've covered transferring in the last video. And like we always say, investigate more on transferring on Google. And there's a hell of a lot of videos on that. And Jerry and I were looking at them today, and there's so many in there. So please, guys, we're not going to cover all of them. We just covered the one transferring from your day chair into your wheelchair, your basketball chair. Right, now we talk about the correct use of the backboard. Now, shooting is a bit of a science. It is a bit of a science, because wherever you put the ball, it's going to deflect off in the same angle as what you actually shot the basket at. So if you don't understand the angle of incidence and the angle of deflection or reflection, I'm going to lose you right out through the rest of this lesson. So there we have it. We have the backboard. You can see it at the back there. And we have through a 90 degree, that's the dotted line. Okay, so that red line there, if we shoot off at 45 degrees, that is the angle of incidence. So whatever the angle is on the attack, that is angle of incidence. The deflection and reflection will reflect off at the exact same angle. So if you shot off at 45, it's going to deflect at 45. If you shoot at 60, it's going to deflect at 60. If you shoot at 75 degrees, it's going to deflect at 75 degrees. Okay? I hope you understand that side of it. That is pretty self-explanatory. So just remember, angle of incidence equals the angle of deflection. Now, I say deflection because it's not a mirror, so we're not using reflection. But a lot of people will use the terminology of reflection. So either way, I'm comfortable with that. Let's just see. Right, so in these diagrams here, you can see these different angles. So we're shooting off at 30 degrees, it's going to deflect off at 30 degrees. You're going to shoot off at 15 degrees, it's going to deflect off at 15 degrees. Now, if you look very, very carefully, when we look at the center, I'm not quite sure about these diagrams, because I don't like to work off the center of the board, because the center of the board is actually the center of the hoop. We need to be slightly off, because if we look at the dimensions of a board and we start going for the corners, it'll deflect off into the basket at that angle. So if you shot and you hit the dead center of the board where the hoop is, you're not going to score a basket. Not from an angle anyway, but from a free throw, yes. So let's look at the dimensions of a ring. Okay, now you'll see that little bracket there. That's 150 millimeters. So between the ring and the backboard. That's quite important, because when we start getting into this and you start looking at trajectory on these shots, if your trajectories aren't right and they hit that bracket, you're going to find that the ball is going to go all over the show. So the dimensions of the ring itself is 450 millimeters in diameter. That there, they're talking about a 20 millimeter thickness of the ring itself. So just bear these in mind here. Now, here we have it. There is the ball. The ball is 24.6 centimeters in diameter. Look at the clearance between the ball and the ring. You have 10.2 centimeters on either side of the ball if that ball was in the center. So theoretically, you could actually take two balls and push it into that ring at the same time. Now, remember, they're looking at the male basketball. So the male basketball is slightly bigger in circumference and in diameter than the ladies' ball and also the mini basketball. So look how important that is. And, you know, when you look at these guys taking shots, you think, gee, how come they can't hit that thing? You could actually put two balls in that ring at the same time. Let's go on to the next slide there, G. So here is dimensions here for you. Okay, so we're going to concentrate mainly on that little square, which is 450 millimeters by 590. And obviously at the bottom of that square is the level of the hoop or the ring. Okay, I'm not too worried about the dimensions of the whole board, but that little square is the most important thing. Move on to the next one there, G. So when we start looking at shooting, okay, so you've got the hoop. Now, we don't do jump ball, but it's our body height and the distance away from the hoop. And when we talk about body height, obviously low pointers sit a little bit lower, high pointers sit high, mid pointers sit in between. So you've got to take all these factors into consideration. Let's look at the ball, the shape of the ball. It should be round, the size of the ball, and the weight. Different size balls, different size weights. The floor, it's got to be flat and parallelism, but it should be that anyway. I can't read that top piece there, but it's size and perpendicular to the board. One other thing which they take into consideration when they start looking at this shot science is it's wet floors, deflated balls, wet balls, overinflated balls. People take all that into consideration when they start looking at the shot science of taking a shot. But it's just a bit of useless information that I'm giving you there. So just bear that in mind anyway. The following areas on shooting, which are important, is obviously the chair and the head position. First of all, the chair. Are you comfortable in the chair? Are you balanced? Are you strapped in correctly? Do you feel comfortable in that chair? Can you move around without feeling like you want to fall out? Are you strapped in correctly? The head position is you've got to be able to focus and see where you're going to put the ball. The hand and ball positioning, that stands to reason. The follow through. So is there somebody trying to come through there, or is it just somebody's mic that's on? Okay, just go back to that last one there, G. Now, we talk about the beef, which is balance, elbow, eyes, and follow through. So the balance is you've got to be balanced in your chair. You've got to feel comfortable. The elbow's got to be at about 45 degrees to the floor and in line with the basket or in line with shoot, depending on whether you're facing head onto the basket, must be in line with your leg, whether you're left-handed or right-handed. So that's the hand you shoot with. It'll be in line with that particular leg. The eyes, when we talk about eyes, we're looking at focusing. Have you got a focus point on the board that you are trying to put the shoot the ball onto, i.e. that little corner to the left or the right of the little square? The follow through is important. So we don't need strength from the arm. We just need that to give us trajectory. The shot actually comes from the flick of the wrist, the flick of the fingers, and the follow through. Once you've done the follow through and you finish with that, you should have formed a J with the hand. Okay. Now there's another thing there called feel. It's basically the same principles. It's fingers, obviously, elbow, extend, and lock. Now, if we go into the other ones, there's another one called cowboy. We haven't got this just yet, but it's, again, keeping both hands at the side of the wheel, coming up with your thumb onto your elbow and things like that. So I will get that video and we'll post it in this as well. So that's basically what you've got to be looking at. With shooting, it takes quite a bit of time to actually master it. So when we talk about time, it's practice, 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 and practice some more until you've got the technique and the basic fundamentals down to a fine art where you're feeling comfortable with bouncing the ball and lifting your arm up, shooting, releasing it, getting distance on the shot, and hitting the hoop. Practice this, because if you don't practice the good habits, the bad habits are going to come in, i.e. shooting with two hands. Try and discourage this thing, shooting with two hands. And I'll tell you why a little bit later on as we go on. Equally, okay, where are we there? Seating position. Since players are seated in wheelchairs, the shooting motion starts from the seated position. That's obviously, it speaks for itself. Your legs are strapped to the wheelchair, so players rely solely on upper body strength and momentum to generate power for the shot. I'm not quite happy with this thing generating power, because it's not a power shot. As long as you've got momentum with the arm coming up into the shooting action, and the rest of it is done with the flick of the wrist and with the fingers. You can move on there, G. They're talking there about prepared to shoot the ball before it touches your hand. So it's a case of you're actually preparing. So you just received the pass, you're already looking at the board, you're focusing on the point where you want to shoot, and you'll go through the shooting motion. Arms ready to explode into your shot, minimize dip of the ball. When they say that, it's mean you'll find a lot of people, they'll catch the ball. The first thing they do is it goes into the lap, and then they try and scoop it out of the lap, and then go into the shooting position. Be careful of that, because what actually happens in that scenario is somebody can come there and spike the ball out of your hand. Casters pointing at the basket, chair is square to the basket. That's if you are, let's just look at it like you're going to be doing a free throw, for example. Some people will square up their chair so it's a 90-degree to the basket. Watch out with that, because I keep seeing that we line ourselves up with the basket, and then we take the shot, and that ball either hits the right side of the ring or it hits the left side of the ring. And the reason being is we've not lined up the shooting arm with the basket. Okay, so don't line your head up and your whole body up with the center of the basket. If you're shooting, line up the basket with your shooting arm. In the case of a free throw, move slightly. If you're dominantly right-handed, move your chair slightly over to the left so that the right hand is lined up with the basket. And vice versa, if you're left-handed, move the chair over to the right so the left hand is lined up with the basket. You'll find a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll line themselves up with the basket, and then they'll slightly tilt the chair. And when I say they're slightly tilted, they're tilted at a slight angle, which means that the arm or the shooting arm is now lined up with the basket. Okay. I don't know if that makes sense, but if it doesn't, you can ask questions and we can discuss that a little bit later on. Keep your head over your hips, minimize the roll, and keep your head still, eyes focused on the target. Now, do you see that last one? Keep your head still, eyes focused on the target. I spoke just now about two-handed shooters. What do? The moment they bring the ball up, so they scoop the ball up off their lap, and as they get to the top of where they're going to release the ball, their head flicks back, i.e. no focus on the shot. No focus on the shot whatsoever. But somebody that shoots with one hand, they're really focused on the point of impact where they want to put the ball, and that's where they aim for. But don't take my word for it. Watch two-handed shooters.
I seem to be having some gremlins. Sorry, Max, one sec.
No, it's fine. Okay, now if you look at these illustrations here, it was discussed in a previous session, the grip of the ball. So your shooting hand, you're actually palming. Well, you're not really palming. This ball just sits in the palm of your hand, but it's not sitting on the palm. It's sitting on the fingertips and certain areas of the hand. And you can see where it's been highlighted, where that ball on the right-hand side from 1 to 4, where the ball would be touching the hand. Now remember, if that ball sits in your palm of your hand, you're not taking a shot, you're looking at doing a pass. Okay, now if you look at the diagram on, or the sketch on the left-hand side, that is a handprint. So all it is you'll see where they've got those lines, it's from thumb to small finger, and from the back of the palm to the tip of the middle finger. So it's essential to find your grip that feels comfortable and provides stability during the shooting motion. And remember, it doesn't sit in the palm of the hand, you've got to cradle it somehow. And it's cradled on the fingertips, and you'll see there's a gap between the ball and the palm of the hand. That way you can get the flicking action via the wrist and via the fingers. If you look at the diagram or the picture on the top, so the left hand is guiding the ball, the right hand is going to be the shooting hand. And that's all that happens there, is one hand just guides it in the direction and the other one is going to be doing all the work. Okay, again, yeah, you can see it where we've now drawn in the diagrams. So the ball is centered in the middle of the hand. Index finger points to the valve in the basket. Yes, I always tell people to line up the middle finger with the basket. Because if the middle finger is lined up with the basket, you know you're on center. So you've balanced now the hand, or you've balanced the ball in the hand. You've got two fingers on either side of the middle finger. That way you do not create spin on the shot. But again, you've got to do what is comfortable for you. But if you line up the middle finger with the basket, I think, and I have proved it in the past, you've got a better chance of sinking the ball. So line from thumb to pinky finger, which we also saw on the last diagram. The triangle towards the target, as you can see there. So there's your focal point. Now, a lot of people are going to talk to you about, oh, get the lines in this. You don't have time when you've just got to know that when that ball's in your hand and you're going into the shooting action, there it is. You've got no chance to try and line up lines on the ball and valves and all the rest of it. It's just not going to happen. But again, like we've said there, do what is comfortable for you. Triangle towards the target, fingers spread as wide as possible so that we've balanced the ball in the hand. Ball sits upper palm and pads of finger. So that upper palm, when we talk about that, there's a gap between the palm and the ball. Remember what we said earlier on? If the ball is sitting right into the palm, it's basically you're going to throw that ball. We go on to the next one there. Body position. Body position is always important. Again, so sit upright with good posture, facing the basket. If you're not facing the basket, you can't focus. If you can't focus, you don't know where you're going to put the ball. Position yourself so that you're squared up with the basket, with your shooting shoulder aligned towards the target. We've spoken about that earlier on. Your dominant shooting hand, line that up with the basket, not your face or the center of your body lined up with the center of the basket. If there's any questions on that, we can always discuss that a bit later on. If you look at the elbow and the hand positions, look what it is. We spoke a bit earlier on about the elbow being 45 degrees to the ground. Okay. Now, when he talks here about the wrist with a wrinkle appearance, it'll be on the top of the hand. Just as the forearm touches the wrist, there will be the wrinkle appearance. Okay, it's just a description of now using the hand correctly. The ball is sitting on the upper part of the palm and the pads of the fingers. Index finger pointing straight at the target. Again, whatever's comfortable for you, either index finger or the middle finger. Okay, but you can see that motion there. And guys, if you look at that, you can see there's not going to be strength in that shot. All it is when you raise the arm up, it's going to start giving you trajectory, and the wrist and the fingers are the ones which are going to do the work. Okay, let's have a look at this. All right, again, self-explanatory, the L-shaped elbow. We saw that. 45 degrees to the floor. Keep the shoulders square. Do not drop the shoulders. If you drop the shoulders, you're not going to get trajectory on the shot. Ball centered to the middle of the hand. We spoke about that, either index finger or the middle finger. Okay, ball on upper part of palm and pads and fingers. So it's not sitting in the palm of the hand. Otherwise, what we've discussed before, it's going to be a throw. Fingers spread wide. Why? Because we want to get balance of the ball in the hand itself. Straight line between thumb and pinky, straight line between index finger and the target. So all you're doing is you're just giving yourself a pathway on which you can follow. The follow through. There's many versions of this follow through. So again, let's just go through this and we'll just discuss it slightly. So the index finger finishes pointing towards the target. There's other arguments saying that the index finger does not point towards the target. It drops down and forms the J at the top of the hand. The triangle maintained between the thumb, pinky, index fingers, and target. There you can see it there on the top. Fingers spread wide. Fingers do not break at the knuckles and are held firm towards the target. But saying that, you've only half taken the shot there. If I look at this, because you've stretched the fingers out straight, but if you really went right down and they came down back towards your forearm, you've got more momentum of that ball because you're now flicking the ball with the fingers there. But it's something we can discuss if there's any gray areas regarding that. Hold the follow through until the ball is through the net. All right. We good with that? We can move on. Again, we've discussed this beef. All right. So beef is, B is for balance. E is for eyes on the target, which means we're focusing. Remember, we just got to do a lot of focus shooting, focusing on the target. Where do you want to put the ball? The other E is elbow sits under the ball or in line with your shooting leg or in line with the basket. The F is follow through. Different versions of that follow through, but whatever makes you feel good and whatever makes you feel comfortable and whatever works for you at the end of the day, as long as you are scoring baskets. The feel, again, is basically similar to beef. They're just talking about the fingers in the middle. I'm talking about middle finger. They talk about index finger. Again, whatever suits you. Eye on the target, focus, and we've previously discussed in beef, elbow under the ball or in line with the basket. Achieve the L shape and the wrinkle. So you need to bend the elbow slightly, otherwise you're not going to get trajectory when you lift the ball up into the air and take the shot. L, lock. That's full extension. That's where your follow through comes through. Eye on the target. Focus or gaze on the rim of the basket. Yes, I've heard a lot of that. Put a point on either the front or the back of the rim and aim for that. I like to use the backboard and use the backboard correctly. So it's visualizing the target helps with accuracy. Yes, it does. So we've predominantly spoken before about the 45 degree, and yes, that's a high percentage shot. It's an 80% shot of the 45. But saying that, if you know where to put the ball on the backboard, and it doesn't matter what angle you're sitting at. Remember, angle of incidence equals the angle of deflection. So you might not, so if you're sitting sort of very, very close to the baseline or between the baseline and the 45, you're not going to aim for that left. Let's just say you're shooting from the left-hand side of the court. You're not going to aim for that left-hand corner. You're going to aim slightly more towards the edge of the basket of the board. So you must probably hit it between the edge of the board and that corner, the left-hand corner, if we're shooting from the left-hand side, because remember the angles that we're talking about, incidence, deflection, so you could use the board correctly using that. But that takes practice, so you need to get that under control by practicing it. The shooting motion typically involves lifting the ball from waist level to above the head. We discussed that. So we've got the arm at a 45-degree angle to the floor. We're lifting it up. The ball is cradled on between the fingers and the palm of the hand. We're lifting it up. Extend the shooting arm fully, which means it goes above the head. Okay, and the releasing of the ball with the flick of the wrist and the fingers together. Okay, it's got to be the wrist and fingers, because the wrist can't just do all the work. The fingers have also got to help out there. Use the power generated from your shoulders and arms to propel the ball forward to the basket. I don't believe that you need to start doing power shots like that unless you start shooting from the halfway line or between the three-point line and the halfway line. There's no need for real power shots, but then again, you've got to get that under control. Otherwise, you don't have direction and you don't have accuracy. The follow-through is after releasing the ball, your shooting hand should continue to extend towards the target with the wrist snapping downwards, and we're forming that J motion. Okay, this follow-through will also just help you maintain accuracy. Here's a little bit of shooting techniques with the low pointer and the high pointers. See, you see that hand at the top? See the hand at the top? That's what I'm talking about. But that hand should be predominantly a little bit more downwards. This finger should point a little bit down towards the floor, which means you're going to use a little bit more momentum on the fingers. See, these are not power shots, okay? They're just lifting up their arms, getting the height or the momentum going, and the rest is done by the wrist and by the fingers. On a high pointer, he sits higher, so same sort of thing. No difference in the shot. The technique is the same whether you're a low pointer or whether you're a high pointer, unless you're a two-handed shooter. Now, trajectory is very, very important, okay? We talk about trajectory. That means giving the ball air. So the higher you can put that ball in the air, all right, the better chance you've got of it either rebounding off the backboard and deflecting into the basket, or going into a swish shot where you're just going straight through and you're just hitting net. Okay, so you can have a look at this. This is also pretty self-explanatory as well. Okay, so let's go through it. Aim for a high arc on your shot to increase the chances of ball going into the basket. The higher arc gives you a larger margin of accuracy as the ball descends towards the hoop. Experiment with different release angles to find what works best for you. And I'm sure these little diagrams on the right-hand side here are self-explanatory. If you shoot flat, like this one now, let's look at this. So, the red line, we're shooting from the free throw. We shoot up. We're looking for the top line of the square. So we hit that square. It deflects into the basket. The blue one, we've put as much air as we possibly can on that trajectory. So now it goes up and it falls through the center of the basket. The green one, that is a flat shot. Now remember we spoke earlier about that little bracket holding the the hoop onto the board. So what happens there it is, we shoot, it's a bit of a flat shot, it hits that bracket. It will deflect off the board at the same angle as what it was shot at. Now, in this case here, the higher the trajectory, so if you put more air on that shot and it hits that bracket, what's actually going to happen now is, because it's a high ball, it'll hit that bracket and go straight back up into the air. Because remember, angle of incidence equals the angle of deflection. And if it goes straight back up into the air, that gives your rebounders a chance to turn around and pick up the ball off the board and fight for the ball in the air, as opposed to scrambling for it on the floor. I hope that makes sense to you. So the more air you put on the ball, the better it is. Let's look here. Figure 1, flat shot. Figure 2, all right, a little bit better. So yes, all right, we're just getting into the, but no, figure 3, we put a lot of air into it, and you'll see it now, it just goes straight into the center of the basket. Okay, so it's arc and trajectory. Put as much height on the shots as you possibly can. But saying that, you must not force your shot. Try shoot or find your shooting distances and shoot from there. And when you've now found your shooting distances, work on trajectory of the shot and the arc of the ball. I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, you're just forcing shots. I'm not going to get too involved with this here, but it's just telling you again, short shots, you're going to hit the front of the ring. You put a bit more air onto it, it's gone into the center, and a little bit more, but you've used a bit more speed and strength, it hits the back of the basket. I spoke to you about that early on, so it'll go straight up into the air. Okay, a lot of this is self-explanatory, but I'm not going to get into height and start getting scientific with you on dimensions and velocity and distance and things of that nature. It just gets too involved. The next one, G. Okay, again, shooting techniques, like any skill, practice, 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 and once you've done that, do it some more, practice some more. We say start off down, you want your juniors to start off, you want them to find their distance, so let them get onto the power circle. That's that little half circle in the key. They start off there and push the ball up against the backboard and let it deflect back into the basket. 50 times from the right, 50 times from the left. We've got to get them used to using both hands. So it says here, start close to the basket and gradually move further and further away. When we talk about moving further and further away, it's one wheelchair length at a time. Until you are now comfortable with the shooting distance and your technique, where you can now feel comfortable in hitting baskets. Focus on consistency in your form and aim for accuracy. So it's focus, focus, focus. We're focusing on consistency and we're focusing on where we want to put the ball on the board. The shooting, that one that goes from 1 to 6.
Sorry, Max, I lost my sound for a second there.
No, that's fine, that's fine. there it is there. So we're talking about now you want to try and find out what your shooting distance is. That little half circle there is the power circle. Get onto that. That power circle is very, very important in all aspects of your game. If you overshoot that power circle coming closer to the basket and you try and take a shot, you're going to hit the underside of the basket. Also, if you're doing layups, if you overshoot that power circle and you can't, and you're on the right-hand side, you're going to hit the underside of the net, which means you've now got to overshoot the basket and do a reverse layup. But in this instance here, we're talking about the power circle. Just sit on the power circle. This is on the right side. Use your right hand. Push it up against the board, the right-hand corner of that little square. Do that 50 times. And then what it is you'll go to the left-hand side and use the left hand. And you'll find that there you'll start finding you'll get comfortable shooting off that distance there because it's not a forced shot at all. And you can see that we're going through the extended 45. Now, if you look where those green lines start on the board, that is basically those corners on the board. You see, I haven't gone from the center of the net. I've gone from the center of the 45 off the sides of that little square circle. Now, the next one is once you're comfortable with that, you'll go one wheelchair back again. That'll be position 2, and you go through the same process again. Do 50 shots, 100 shots, whatever you require. Because remember, your drill is to polish the action. So if it takes 100 shots, then let it be. But that you coaches will determine in your practices. And then once you're comfortable with that, you'll go again, one wheelchair length back to position number 3, and it'll just carry on doing that 4, 5, 6, until eventually you'll actually find out that you're at the 3-point line. Okay. I hope that makes sense to you. But don't just start off anywhere along that 45 line. Start off on the power circle and work your way backwards towards the 3-point line. Otherwise, you're just all over the show. You've got no direction. Now, here's something that's very interesting here. From the center of the net or the ring to the 3-point line, that's 6.75 meters. From the center of the ring to the free throw is 4.225 meters. You hear them talk about the 15-foot shot. This is where the 15-foot shot comes in. So now let's take a point from the center of the basket to the free throw line and circumscribe it around to the left and circumscribe that circle to the right. That's high-powered field goal shots. If you can shoot a free throw, you should be able to shoot anywhere along that red line. Anywhere along that red line. You can either use the backboard correctly or you put trajectory and arc on your shot to get a swish shot. Now, if you're shooting anywhere outside that key along those red lines, that means that the defense has to jump out to you. I know this is not entry-level stuff. I'm just letting you know, matter of interest. Defense has to jump out to you to try and stop that shot. The moment they jump out to you, they create a gap in the defense. If there's a gap in the defense, you attack the gap with aggression, pick up the ball inside, and then you've got the rebound or the layup situation. So, very important, get your guys to start shooting. Just do an imaginary line on your practices around and get the guys to start shooting there. Instead of trying to encroach onto the key where you're going to get stopped and defended anyway, shoot from outside, draw them off their defense and out of the key position. That was just a matter of interest for you. You good with that? Yeah, I put this in, but I think at entry level, I'm not going to get too much into this because this again it's going to be trajectory, it's going to be speed, velocity, height. So just disregard this, and when we start getting into entry level, into level 1 stuff, I'll start explaining this one with you. Now, the key to any of your drills that you're doing is repetition, 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 repetition. You're trying to build up muscle memory, get the body used to shooting from that distance. Are you forcing the shot? Is the shot comfortable? Are you comfortable in your chair? Do you feel comfortable at that distance? We're trying to build up the muscle memory where now all of a sudden you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time you take a shot. You know what your distances are. You can shoot from there, but practice those shots from those distances. Consistently practicing your shooting techniques, you've got to be consistent all the time. So, putting up 100 shots, if it doesn't work for you, put up 200 shots. If that doesn't work for you, 300. And then set yourself targets. I need to do X, Y, Z shots or whatever it is, whatever drills you're going to do. I'm going to do that every day, and I'm going to spend an hour doing it, etc., etc. So everything you do just to improve your accuracy, improve your focus, and improve your shooting skills. But again, it's practice, practice, practice. These guys, don't think that Sipa, Jerry, and myself are gods in this. If you are seeking any guidance or you want any information, please just get onto the group, pick up the phone, speak to us, put your queries on the group. We'll answer them. Everybody as a collective can actually see what the concerns are and what the answers are. So we're going to work as a group and do that. All right. If you have to work one-on-one with your players, show them what they've done wrong, teach them what they've done wrong, show them how you've corrected it, and let them also put in personal drills to make whatever you've taught them work for them. Okay, they can help identify areas for improvement and offer guidance on how to refine your skills. So just keep using and speak to more experienced coaches, more senior coaches, whatever you need to do, and just get ideas. But just use what works for you. As long as it works for you, use it. Let's not reinvent the wheel if we don't have to. The summary, remember that shooting in wheelchair basketball, like any skill, takes time, patience to develop. Bear in mind, I talk about skills. Skills is broken up into two sections. It's either chair or ball. The most important skill to me is shooting. From the ball skills, it's shooting. You either win or lose the game because you can't finish your shooting, or you win the game because you're hitting it from all over the show. Okay, so stay focused on shooting. Practice shooting, and on the tactical side, when we get into it, work on defense. But shooting is the most. You don't even have to push a chair. Just come onto the court, and if you can shoot a three, then let your guys set up screens and let you shoot threes all day. Kill that basket, kill the team. Remember, outwit, outscore, and outplay your opposition. That's what it's all about. I think we are there.
That is indeed it, Max. Thank you very much.
So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask them. And don't be shy. And if you are shy and you only want to ask them on the group later on, that's also good by me.
Open to the floor. Nope, nobody. You must have done a fantastic job, Max.
Really? Maybe my mic was muted the whole time. I don't know.
All right. Well, if wait, hold on. Let's see. Maybe a question in the chat. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Nikki, for that. Yeah. So if there's no further questions, we will adjourn this session. I will endeavor to put this recording up as soon as possible, and then share the first off the English versions of this, and as soon as I get a chance to do the translations, I will share that on the group. Max, thank you very much for your time and efforts, much appreciated. I have also shared the updated schedule of all the different topics that we will be covering, so without having it in front of me, the next one I think is the end of the month or early the first week in April. So until then, guys, yeah, as Max said, any questions or suggestions, comments, whatever the case may be, put them on the group, and we will answer whatever we can. So thanks again, everybody, and we will catch you on the next one.
Just stay focused, everyone. Stay focused. And improve, be a better version of yourself always.